So I think it's probably a good time to just get straight into it. So yeah, apologies for my lack of voice as well, by the way. So yeah, just welcome everyone to our panel cut through. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Charlotte Rogers. I'm a third year music business student here at the University of Gloucestershire, and I am the first ever female station manager of Tone Radio here at the university in 15 years of broadcasting. I'm delighted to be joined by co-founder of Chimes and Capacity Building Lead for Key Change, Magdalena Jensen, founder of Women in Control, Nadia, University of Gloucestershire alumni who is working with Solar Management, Gwen, and Jess Partridge, who is founder of London in Stereo, and a new music platform, supporting the live sector with popular magazines in London, Bristol and Berlin. So today I want to discuss how, as music students, we can not only take steps to accelerate our careers in the business, but also invest in the future of the music industry. And I don't think it will surprise anyone that there is a horrendous lack of representation and diversity, but with organisations and committees such as Key Change, She Said So, and Women in Control, there are clear movements for change to benefit all the women sitting here and watching this panel. So to the audience, to make sure today you can be as productive as possible, make sure you grab a notebook and think about how you can make a difference as an individual, and just drop some questions in the chat, which we will try and address throughout or at the end. So firstly, I want to ask all of you, how did you start your journey in the music industry, and what was the hardest part of opening that door, and how you overcame it? So if we just go around to Gwen first.
Yeah, so I first got in by doing a sandwich year at University of Gloucestershire. I knew from the beginning that that's one of the main things that kind of drew me to the course, was the fact that they offered that sandwich year. So applied for that. Obviously, it's not an easy kind of path, but you just have to keep trying, not give up. And luckily, I just, with a bit of luck, got a job at Warner Music for a full year internship. So that was what was the main question again? How did I get into it?
So when you started in music industry, what was the hardest part of opening that door and getting in?
It was the hardest part was the application part. It was, obviously it's so competitive. There's hundreds of other people that want to do the same as you. So you just got to try and stand out a bit and just not give up. Obviously you're going to get so many no's, but then you just have to, as I said, just don't give up, keep some faith and just keep trying. Try get as much work experience as you can, make the most of every opportunity, obviously, and with a bit of that, the hard part gets easier and you just start to meet more people.
Lovely. Should we go to Nadia next?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've been working in the industry now for 19 years, but 16 years of that I've been a music manager. And I think the hardest thing for me starting out was kind of getting my foot in the door in the industry in the first place. Because of my socioeconomic background, I don't come from a privileged background. So, I didn't have any family living in London. So I had to get work experience, as I know, similar to many women in the industry or many people in the industry have had to work for free, and I had to get a weekend job to support that. So that was really tough in the beginning. And I know, that was really challenging. I remember it being a really tight time. And then, like I said, I've been managing for 16 years and I still manage my same client, my first ever client that I picked up for management 16 years ago, which is incredible. But when I wanted to go forward for the management job, he'd just been signed to a record label, and the record label actually didn't want me to be his manager. So they kind of blocked me from doing that. And I found out, unfortunately, that it was actually a woman in the record label that had that decision power and decided that I wasn't going to be suitable for the management position. But I didn't take no for an answer. I decided to send an email to everyone in the record label and, fight for my case and fight for my cause and say, I'm willing to come in and meet you all, address any concerns, etc. I just didn't want to take no. I was just like, I'm gonna, get this job. And they relented and they gave me the position. And yeah, I'm still here 16 years later. So I think it's a real testament to, believing in yourself, believing in your goals, not letting anybody stand in the way of what you want to do, and really fighting to overcome those hurdles and obstacles.
Yeah, lovely. Jess?
So I, my very first things in music industry were promoting shows. I've always had kind of a live element to the stuff I do, because London Stereo, based on listings and live music. That feels like a lifetime ago. I was 17, 16, and I had no idea what I was doing. I started London Stereo when I was 23, so that was a little bit later, after I had quite a lot of experience in other areas. And I would definitely say the hardest thing, especially when it came to starting the magazine, was being taken seriously. Actually people thinking, oh, you can do this, and you are the right person to lead this. I think that there was a lot of doubt. I mean, regardless of the fact I was trying to start a print publication in 2013, it was something that was really difficult. And I still find today, you constantly have to prove yourself. You constantly have to make sure that people are taking you seriously.
Magdalena?
So I had quite a different start to everybody else. I started my career in music in Poland, actually. I'm a Polish American, and I lived there for most of my adult life. Moved when I was 18, and I worked first as a tour manager, and very quickly started working as a general manager after a few months for this band. We started going international very quickly across Europe. So most of my career is based in continental Europe. And I moved to the UK 2 years ago, and I feel like I've had to sort of start over in a sense, and encountered a lot of barriers that I never had before. I resonate with what Jess said for sure, that being taken seriously was something that was like a big pain in the ass, especially when I was young. The moment I hit 30, it's like this magical barrier, magical age, that suddenly all of the men, particularly in the industry, start to take you seriously. Women as well, though. And you're just like, why? So I think that, and then the moment you're after 30, everybody assumes you're about to leave to pop out a baby and you're never coming back. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's really tricky with kind of being taken seriously and age thing. But I just also want to point out that there is a huge difference between the UK industry and other music industries, especially in Europe, when it comes to these sorts of barriers, and when it comes to the way that you're treated, especially as a woman. The level of sexism in the UK industry is bloody mind-blowing, and it doesn't look like that everywhere. And to be honest, I really didn't know I was going to encounter that. I didn't choose to move to London. It was a personal life choice and not a career choice. It wasn't like it was my dream to kind of climb the ladder into this music industry at all. I'd say that, something around that being taken seriously, that ageism and that sexism right now is still a barrier and still a challenge, and hasn't gone away. It's just transformed and in a different context.
Yeah. So kind of building on what we've just said, with opportunities not necessarily being evenly distributed, how can we just not become discouraged when we are faced with recognition? I think that's the right word. I
think it's about community and finding your people and, sticking with them. And one thing that I think, I'm curious what all the other awesome ladies on this panel think, but I think there is, to address also what Nadia mentioned that had happened to her as her kind of entry barrier. As women, I think we need to sort of unequivocally always stand up for each other and always open those doors, no matter what, and put any personal bullshit we have aside with the other person, and full stop, just stand up for each other as women. And I'd say that kind of regardless of what kind of community it is that you have, but I think find your tribe and always stick with each other and stick up for each other.
Just having each other's backs, and just, I think it's the point we all made about just supporting the other women, because we're facing the same barriers, and it's just helping each other overcome them, kind of for the, it sounds weird to say like this, but for like the greater good in a way, saying I might not necessarily be the woman to get this role, but if there's somebody else who's more suited to it, I'm going to help them and push them to get it, which is obviously like an amazing thing to do as the movement for women in music. Nadia, sorry,
I was just going to say, I also want to note that, you know, the UK Music Diversity Survey this week showed that 2/3 of the new entries to the music industry are women. So like entry-level positions and stuff, the people who responded were 2/3 women. It's not a perfect way to judge it, but that's such a huge thing, and that should be inspirational. Like, you are looking to get into the industry, like there are a lot of other women doing it, and there are a lot of other people to support you.
So one of the things I'm basing my dissertation on this year is about the representation of women in the music industry in the 21st century, and I'd been looking at the charts for like the past decade or so, and of all time in the UK, in the US and Australia, and about the general pattern was about 3/4 of these charts were male lead artists. And I think people say there's more women as performers in the charts now, but it's actually going down for women as lead artists, and it's more women featuring. So it's obviously quite an interesting thing to see how that's going to change and grow.
I want to add also onto all of this is that I think it's essential, really generous as well, and like really generous with our knowledge, with our contacts, with opportunities. And like sometimes, and especially in like a time when your income might not be that big because you've been impacted by the pandemic, that might seem counterintuitive or seem really difficult, but it is really important to support that, you know, all of those new entry-level women that have just entered the industry, so that they stick around and don't fall out. And so that there are new generations coming up and coming through. Like we all have to be really generous with our time and our knowledge.
So Nadia, you have obviously built like an incredible organisation and network of women in the industry with Women in Control. So like with your range of like webinars, workshops that obviously help mentor and guide women in the industry, what is the one thing you would say you wish you knew from the start of your career?
I think, you know, from the beginning, I think I wish I had that supportive network, and that was what I was really lacking. Like I said, when I started in the industry, had doors closed on me, and unfortunately by women as well. So I didn't have any role models I could reach out to and look up to. And, you know, even Jess talking about those figures about, you know, more women coming into the industry at entry level, and Magdalena just touched on it. But the actual issue is we're losing women in the industry when they get to the mid-level or senior level. So women are not being supported enough through the industry. So I would have loved to know what I know now and have that supportive network. And I would like to know that it's okay to speak up for yourself. I think that, you know, it's really a struggle, as Jess mentioned, to be taken seriously as a woman when you first come into the industry and you're first starting your career, as was the reason why I was rejected from being, you know, the manager, because they just didn't take me seriously. I just was too young. They just judged me and thought that I couldn't do the job. So I would, like to have that courage to speak up for myself sooner. I've been, you know, experienced so many situations where I've been undermined. I've experienced sexism and unconscious bias in situations, and it's taken me a long time to build that confidence to be able to speak up for myself. So maybe I wish I had that sooner, and that's something that I really want to provide to other women that are coming into the industry or in the industry right now. And that's actually the reason why I started Women in Control as well, is to try and break that culture, because there's a real old boys club culture where I saw guys all recognizing each other, patting each other on the back. And that's why I started Women in Control. And my first ever Women in Control was Frie Henry Fontaine, who is now gone on to be like a founder of the Black Music Coalition. And at the time, it was just something I posted on my Instagram, and putting another woman up there and bigging another woman up that wasn't getting enough recognition wasn't really done then. And it's just about, you know, creating that supportive community and just being like, yeah, we all need to support each other. And like Magdalena said, build that community spirit.
Yeah, because I was reading an article released by The Guardian earlier this year, and it was saying things about how the music industry kind of is a boys' club at times. And a statistic I found particularly interesting was one about music producers and how it was some astronomical statistics saying something like 97.3% of music producers are men, and there's only like 2 point something are women, and it's just shocking. That was only earlier this year. It's not like it was 5 years ago. It was earlier this year, and I think it'd be quite interesting with this whole women in music movement that we're obviously growing now, and obviously what we're talking about today. I think it'll be interesting to see how that hopefully changes for the better for all of us, because I know people who are female music producers and they do some amazing work, and it's just a shame that people aren't always getting recognised for that. So hopefully that will change, which is obviously the point of what we're all doing now.
There's a new organization that has come up called 2% Rising that is for female women, female and non-binary women producers and engineers and mastering technicians and such. One of the co-founders is one of this year's Key Change participants. So it's called 2% Rising. They're brand new and they're starting, but they're also already like 70 people or 200 people or something significant, actually. So I can recommend it for anybody that's looking to get into that field.
And I also wanted to say as well, I think that the stats that you might be talking about from The Guardian, that might be from the Women in Control report that I put out in September. And within that, I looked at like exactly the figures that you were talking about, you know, about the number of female solo acts declining in the charts and in radio, and women are having to collaborate or duet with men, and also did a breakdown of the top 100 most played songs in 2020. And that's where that figure has come from as well. There's only 3% of female producers in the top 100. So yeah, definitely check that out.
It's shocking, really, isn't it? So obviously with the second lockdown in England starting tomorrow, we're obviously looking at how we can still be pursuing music and everything that we're doing. So obviously we call it like the side hustles we're doing and stuff, but then becoming more and more popular. Do any of you have any tips for founding your own businesses and things like that? So should we go to Jess first?
I mean, so just so you know, like in stereo has always been, I guess, technically my side hustle. I had full-time jobs for the first 6 years of it. And I actually kind of chose to do that. I enjoy learning in different ways, and I felt like they actually complemented each other quite well. And yeah, so starting your own business, I mean, I have so much to say, everything from, you know, trust your instincts, because people will tell you that your idea is wrong or bad or like not the right thing that the music industry wants at the moment. But if you really believe in what you're doing and you're passionate about it, that will really come through. And don't be afraid to try things. Like, just go for it, because like failing isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. Not taking opportunities is much worse.
And
I'm not saying either that you have to take every single opportunity thrown your way, because that pressure is exhausting sometimes. So really do think about the opportunities you're taking, but don't not take them because you're scared. You probably can do it. And even if you can't, at least you did put in that effort and did try and found something new about yourself.
Gwen?
So I haven't really got any side hustles at the moment, but all I could say is in this pandemic, you should just continue to support each other, as we've just been talking about. Sign all the petitions you can, keep sharing all your friends' work, support each other's communities, and just be there for each other in these hard times. No one knows what's going on. We just need to just keep positive, keep supporting each other, and just listening to new things, keep looking out for new things, and just signing all these petitions to make sure there's like a future for everything.
Magdalena?
So I have all my hustles are side hustles, I guess, because I do a lot of things and I like it that way. I own my 2 companies. I'm the co-founder of another nonprofit, as well as I'm about to start a 3rd company. So I really like to have a lot of different things happening. And I really do recommend that. And I think that's kind of the way forward in the industry. However, and I can tell you guys what some of those things are, just so you have like an idea as well of how that might look. I have a record label. I have a consulting and management agency. I'm the co-founder of the European Music Managers Alliance. With my consulting and management agency, we have our two biggest clients are Chimes, so running the capacity building program for Chimes, as well as the Orchard, running their entire operation basically for Poland and the Baltics. So I like to have a lot happening, and I like having my finger in a lot of different pots, and some of them give me more stability than others, and I enjoy that. However, and I can tell all of you that in the time of a pandemic especially, sometimes giving yourself a break physically and mentally and not feeling the pressure to always deliver on all fronts is extremely important. I've been through physical and mental burnout, and it is very difficult to come back from. So I really do recommend that, like Jess said, you don't have to take every opportunity. I always thought you did, but you just don't.
And Nadia?
So I started management was my side hustle. I was doing PR as my day-to-day job, but I really wanted to get into management. So I started it as my side hustle. And then when I knew that I could actually make a living from it, then I transitioned into management full time. So I think side hustles are a really great way of kind of finding your feet in your idea and business and testing it out. I would also just like to touch on a little bit of what, the ladies have mentioned about this year as well. I think, it's been 16 years doing management and running your own business is extremely challenging as a woman in the industry. It's been really tough and it's just relentless. You're just constantly working. So at the start of this year, when lockdown happened, I kind of immediately, first of all, my first thought was like a panic because all my income for the whole year was just completely devastated, and financially it really hit me hard. But I also decided to make a positive out of it. And, like Magdalena said, I've had that burnout. And I just was like, this is my first time in 16 years where I can actually sit down, take a chill and focus on things that I'm really passionate about. And, I think a lot of people in the industry, I've seen them pivot towards these things, and use the time effectively and make a positive change and use it for reflection. And the positive thing that's come out of this for me is that I've been able to invest so much time in Women in Control, which is a passion project of mine that I've been wanting to do 4 years. And I've been able to build this up now to, the membership with over like 1,500 members. And it's just only grown because I've only had the time to do it this year. So it's just something positive coming out of a negative situation. But I think that's really important and been able to help me like redress some, life work balance as well.
Yeah. So going to Gwen quickly, as obviously you graduated from university here in Gloucestershire a couple of years ago, a lot of the work we do is more portfolio based, just so we can go into the industry and show portfolios and say this is the power we have and things like that. How should we prioritize, or what should we prioritize when building our portfolio, and how can we make the most from our degree?
So I would say if you have a rough idea of what kind of field you want to go into, then I would say it's great to kind of pursue that. For example, I always knew I thought I wanted to go into artist management. So I was like, I'm going to try and pursue this from the early stages of uni. So any opportunity I could have where I could work with an artist, work on events, do artist liaison at festivals, any opportunity that came towards me, I just kind of took it. But also it's important to kind of go outside your comfort zone as well and try things that you think you might not like, but then you end up liking them, or you might do it and you're like, I don't like this, that's not the field you want to go down. So I think it's just take as many opportunities as you can. The university offers so many different experiences for you, and so many people I just watched over the years just not take them. And then at the end of the year they're like, I don't know what to do. So it's kind of, you just have to just make the most of it, start networking now, with all of this music festival, obviously every year it's so good, and there's so many people you can meet or just learn from. So you just need to start networking along early stage, and get as much experience as you can. Obviously at the moment with the lockdown, the like physical work experience is probably a bit hard at the moment. But when it's safe to do so, or if there's another way you can do it, like work like on a website for someone, or social media for someone, or just anything virtually, just make the connections, and the worst they can say is no, and you just go elsewhere.
Yeah, so I think going back to the point you made about like taking opportunities, I know when I joined university, I wouldn't have necessarily gone for radio, and I just joined the student radio in my first year, and now I'm in my third year. First ever female station manager, applying to do a master's in broadcast journalism, which I wouldn't have thought 3 years ago. And it's just interesting how many small decisions, like seemingly small decisions at the time, can make such an impact.
Exactly, yeah. You've got to grab them while you can. Like, uni doesn't last forever. It's so good. No. And yeah, there's so many things you can do at uni. So, for sure.
Yeah, lovely. So going to Magdalena, can you tell us about obviously the capacity building program at Key Change and how that's going to be running through lockdown?
Sure. And just let me add really quickly to what Gwen was saying about the networking as well. Like, I also think now is an exceptionally, I know this might sound odd to say, good time to network and make new contacts, because we're all sitting around at home. we all have cut out commute times, we've cut out office times. None of us are quote unquote wasting time with a bunch of shit. So like, I have a lot of not a lot, but I'm willing to make more time in my day for random meetings, random phone calls. I'm happy if people hit me up on Instagram and ask for, hey, can I just pick your brain kind of thing? And I've done that. I make an effort to do that. And I think, and people are doing it for me too. Like, people are responding to my emails and setting up meetings just to meet, which is cool. But back to your question, Key Change. Yeah, it was a weird pivot year, to be honest. And Key Change, because what's so fundamental to the Key Change program are all of the partner festivals all across Europe and in Canada, and the travel and the being at a showcase and physically taking part in the capacity building events or in the conference and all of that. It's been a massive challenge. However, we've moved everything online, all of the capacity building program online. We have lots of different variety of things that I've put together. So last night, for example, we did a hands-on interactive workshop about pitching and networking. And that was also a continuation of some work that we've done around storytelling and brand building. And we did like practice speed dating last night, where we had 30 people on, and we just did breakout rooms and moved people through 1.5 minute pitch kind of speed date sessions, and you just make it work, right? So it's been challenging, but I also think it's opened up a lot of new opportunities. Like, for example, for Emma this year, it looks like I'm going to have one of the top managers in the United States to do our keynote speech at the end of this year, Wendy Ong, who is the head of TAP, president of TAP in the US, and TAP management. And like, I probably wouldn't be able to have her if we were having a physical meetup, because there's no way that I'm going to, this person's probably not going to make the time to fly for one event, and B, like, what a waste of carbon emissions. And so I'm trying to see the positive, right? So
yeah, exactly. So looking forward to the future of the industry, which is obviously for maybe people in my sort of situation who are like finishing university or the bachelor's degree now coming into the industry. To all of you, how important, I kind of touched on this before, how important do you think mentoring is when like creatives are trying to reach their career goals, and have any of you been a mentee on the mentee side of mentoring?
I've never had a mentor, and especially through the magazine, like there was a real period where I was desperate for someone who understood the challenges of what specifically comes with a publication, especially a print one. And it was just really hard to find someone who would be available to do that. I am I would have killed for it. I am a mentor to a couple of people, and I do really enjoy that process, and I think that it really brings a lot to you, like your actual practice being a mentor is probably just as useful as being a mentee. You learn a lot you learn to trust in your knowledge in a way that I don't think you do otherwise. And yeah, that's pretty exciting. But yeah, generally, mentoring wasn't such a thing when I first started out in the industry, and I wish it had been.
I can go.
I'd accidentally muted my own mic. Nadia, sorry.
I never had a mentor when I was coming through the industry, and I really would have loved one. I think, there were so many challenges when I was coming through. I would have loved to have had, the support or advice from somebody that has been around in the industry that could connect me with other people or give me that supportive network. So I think it's really, really important for like new entry level people that are coming into the industry, that we support them. So I think it's great, but yeah, unfortunately I've never had a mentor myself.
Magdalena?
Yeah, I've never had a mentor per se, but I've had some different advisors. When I set up my company at 29, I set it up when I co-founded it. We put together a small advisory board of a few of the people that we looked up to in the industry and had done it ahead of us. And that was instrumental. We've had setting up 2 a.m. phone calls because one of the guys is in Seattle to pick their brain super last minute about what seemed like the worst ever thing that happened to us in our lives at the time. Now I look back on it, I'm like, why did we think that was a problem? Do you know what I mean? But it was just so wonderful to have some of that support in that capacity. I really believe in the power of mentorship. As Jess said, I think it's a two-way street usually as well, and you can really get a lot out of being a mentor. And I also run mentorship programs for music managers. I run one in Poland, and I'm currently running one for EMA, the European Music Managers Alliance. And I just think that that's so essential. There are so many benefits on all sides for it. And I just think that kind of not only getting guidance, but also someone that can be a sounding board, someone that can get you out of your perspective sometimes and reframe what you've just said to you, even like a coach style, I think is also super great. So there are lots of different ways to get that kind of support.
Yeah, and Gwen?
So yes, I think my experience has been a bit different. So obviously I came in straight from uni. You get the support of the lecturers and the different people that come into uni, like key speakers and stuff. And obviously some of the lecturers work in the music industry. So you kind of get a self-mentoring through that, which is super helpful. And then when I went to do my internship, I was just so fortunate, I think, and lucky with my experience. My line manager, she was basically like a little mother hen for the 2 interns in the department I was in. And she just kind of mentored us through the whole year. When it was down to politics in the office or how to deal with situations and knowledge of the industry, just every little key feature you wouldn't think of, she kind of mentored us in. So I was a super lucky, but that was just a manager role. She wasn't just a mentor kind of thing. But no, I do think mentors are important, and it just kind of gives you, especially if you're someone who's starting out or you're a student or someone who just wants some experience or knows what you want to go into. It's so nice just to get that confidence, I think, of someone else when they can kind of share the experiences with you, or just give you the kind of support that you're kind of after or advice that you're after, really. So yeah, I do think it's helpful.
I love that idea of a advisory board, by the way, just to say, it's not it's not completely it's not the first time anyone's done that, basically. But I think that whole idea of saying, I want to create a company in this area, who can I look to that would not only give me advice, but vouch for me and give me that
exactly stamp of approval.
If you're struggling to be taken seriously, that's a great way of being well, exactly. Other people are taking me seriously, because sometimes that can be the only way, especially in music where so much is based off of recommendations, I find.
Absolutely. And that was part of the kind of concept behind setting it up like that, was because we were a brand new company set up out of fucking Poland, but do you know what I mean? How random is that? But working across Europe, right? So we really needed to have advocates in the industry that were extremely well respected and at a really high level. And we were lucky enough to know the people to ask. And they all said yes, not a single person said no. So we started off with 3 massive like CEOs and company founders, and it was cool. We barely knocked on their door for support. Let's be clear. It was once in a while, but it was just having that framework and that structure and that stamp of legitimacy was really, really important.
Yeah. Going to Nadia again. So obviously this year you released the report on like diversity in music trade organisations, where you showed some, obviously like we kind of mentioned before briefly, some quite shocking statistics about how women and minorities are being very underrepresented in many things like leadership positions. And like, how did it make you feel when you were making this report and then seeing the effect it's had?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I was really angry when I was making the report because I didn't know what I was going to find. I did the report leading on from, all the events that have happened this year, from the shocking murder of George Floyd that led on to the Black Lives Matter movement and the show must be paused, and the Black Music Coalition putting out a list of demands for the music industry to follow suit. And I found it really problematic and wanted to challenge all these like statements that were coming out about diversity and how important diversity was for all these organizations in the industry, when my experiences of being in the industry wasn't reflective of that. So I wanted to also unpack BAME a little bit, because I find BAME quite a problematic term. Because it's kind of all encompassing. I think, people have a misconception. I think that they believe it only just covers Black and Asian people, but I'm mixed race, I'm half Asian and I fall under BAME. And companies were using statistics, BAME statistics, to say, look how diverse we are. So that was an issue for me. So I wanted to look, like you said, at the boards, the senior level roles, the leadership roles within organizations, and see how women are represented, but also do an intersectional analysis specifically focusing only on Black women, because I was like, that's the only response you can give in response to what's going on right now. We have to look at the real stats and we have to look at those numbers. And I didn't know the response that the report was going to get. I thought maybe I'm going to get cancelled, to be honest, because I thought my career was maybe over. But I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to go for it, because I think it's important to speak out and just tell the story of what is going on. And I think data reporting is really effective because it's just the facts, right? So you're just looking at the facts. I didn't make all this up. It's not emotionally led by me. This is the state of where we're at the minute. Obviously, it showed that, there was out of 185 possible board seats, there's only 5 Black women that sit across all of those boards. In the CEO and chair positions, there's only 9% of women sit as chairs. There's only 34% CEOs are women. So there's a real obviously disparity and also imbalance and across different boards. I am happy to say though that I have been working with all of the organizations in the report, most of them. A couple didn't want to engage with me, but most of them have been working with me and helping them to find candidates for their boards. They wanted to make change. So the Iris Academy, they had immediately 2 people step down from their board, and they've added 2 new people onto their board. One of them I helped source as well. And PPL, they've only had 1 woman on their board out of 16 possible board seats when the report was released. They've already added 3 more women onto their board, and they've got further elections at the end of November, and potentially there's 2 more women coming onto that. Also the AIM board as well that I sit on myself. I'm a board member at AIM, and they've now reached gender parity where they've hit their 50% gender balance targets as well. So it's been really crazy to see, because like I said, I didn't know. I was prepared to get cancelled. I was prepared to just put it out and just be like, right, that's me done. Like maybe I'll just have to change my career. But to see actually it be received so well and to see it actually making change is just been like the most incredible thing to be part of, to be honest.
Yeah. Obviously, kind of going to the group, we've already touched on it a bit there. How can we take action against the lack of representation as individuals? Because obviously we're like we mentioned before, obviously like supporting each other, and just how can we as an individual help make a difference? If we go to Jess again.
as individuals, there are a lot of things that we can do. I think, always questioning inclusion and making sure that you are asking those questions, because even as someone who works in music, it's easier for me if I'm booking panels or stuff like that, people are asking those questions and making sure that they are included in diverse spaces that include women and people of color especially. But then also, I think one of the biggest things they're constantly say on panels, and I hope that it's really changed a few people's feeds, but look at the information you're getting, like through socials especially, like make sure you're following people with diverse opinions. And I'm not saying opinions that reflect differently to yours, but I'm saying people whose lived experiences are different to yours. Like, make sure you're finding them and seeking them out, because they're not going to find you, and if then you're looking to collaborate with someone different, someone outside of your bubble or whatever, if you've actually made that effort in the first place to diversify the voices you're hearing, then putting those calls out and doing those collaborations, it's going to be much easier, because you already have that knowledge, you already know the opportunities out there, and also they as well. So really put in the effort to look at the information you're getting in your feed and find some people of color, find people who live in different spaces. They're not all London music industry. It's really, there really is so much out there that can help open your eyes.
Magdalena?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think also touching on what Jess said, we have to cancel culture. We can't be like not engaging and reaching out across the aisle, full stop across the board. Like, that's just inhumane, and it just feeds this algorithmic bubble that we've fallen into, and we're never going to move forward as society. And we can see the world is falling to shit around us. So if the most you can do is to just talk to someone that disagrees with you, please do it. Make that effort. But something else that I think that I'm exploring for myself is around kind of inclusivity clauses as well, and not participating in things that are not reflective of the more diverse population that we live in. And standing up for inclusivity and making sure that any panels that I'm participating in are intersectional, not just gender balance, but also intersectional, and things that I'm organizing are also that. And I'm in a really, I'm in a position of influence in that regard, because I organize educational events. And so it is absolutely my responsibility to do that. And so I think recognizing what kinds of positions of privilege you are in and what kinds of steps you can take in as part of that responsibility, I think is really important. It's different for everybody, and it requires some self-examination. But now's the time.
Exactly. Gwen?
Yeah, basically agree with what the two have said, as in it's so important, and we've just got to keep educating ourselves. There's so many organizations out there that are supporting all of our thoughts, what we want to change in. So it's important that we kind of not just kind of agree with it or swipe past it. We've got to, if you believe in it, you should also support that organization. You should try and get involved yourself. If you've got questions, you should ask the questions. But yeah, no, I can't put it better than they did. But yeah, you just got to keep supporting everything that you believe in, but also as I said, bring up the discussion with people.
And finally to Nadia, I know obviously we've touched on it already, but just get your views on it as well.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you asked how can we take action when you see lack of representation, and I think what's really important is being able to create awareness of that. So if you do see that lack of representation within communities or organizations around you, then speak out, create some awareness on it. If you don't feel comfortable to do that alone, then reach out to other organizations like Women in Control or even the UK Music Diversity Task Force, and let it be known, and just work with other people, collaborate to kind of build some awareness on it, and create change, be an activist, and make noise. I loved what the other ladies said about educating yourself as well, and just understanding more and putting yourself into different situations to like have a more like diverse thought process as well.
Lovely. Going to Gwen, obviously because you are more at the start of your career, as I am as well. Sorry, let me get it together a bit. How do you feel, obviously, being at the start of your career in the industry, and what do you hope to see in the future?
As I've kind of gone from the label side to management, you kind of just it is different, I feel, and you're just constantly learning. You're just by being around other people and listening to how they work with different things, how they talk to different people. I'm just obviously I'm kind of feeling this is like I'm still in the beginning of my career, obviously, so I'm finding like every day I'm kind of learning something new or picking up something new, like I wouldn't think to do it like that, or like you kind of find how the way you like to work differently to other people. So yeah, it's just a massive learning curve. You're always learning. But going for the future, do you mean was in like where I want to be, or how do I find things in the music industry right now?
Obviously, like where do you want to be, and how can you imagine it being in the future?
God, it's a hard question at the moment. I love what I'm doing at the moment, so I just wanted to see where this path takes me. It's so much fun. It's obviously you're always challenging yourself. You're doing something different. I do want to see the change, obviously, that we've all been speaking about today. But as the months go on, obviously, like I'm seeing how there's more opinions coming up about the whole women in the industry, the whole diversity, all the opportunities, all that kind of stuff. There are stronger opinions about it, so I am confident that change can happen. We just all have to just make action of what we're saying and just help that change happen. But I'm excited for the future. I mean, the place we're in right now, obviously it's hard, it's not the same, it's not where we all want to be, but we move, you know, we kind of all just got to just live with it, find a way to move on with it, and we just have to make the best of what we've got. So if we all support each other and stick together, I'm sure the future of the music industry will continue to be exciting. We just got to show that support and keep educating ourselves.
Lovely. Going to Jess, from the work you've done with being like project managers, from the work you're now doing with She Said, so what is the next step for you?
I honestly don't know. So just to be clear with like what has happened with me, obviously I'm in kind of, I was in a similar situation to Nadia, where when the pandemic hit, I lost all of my income. The magazine stopped printing, and that was immediately overnight. I haven't had another paycheck, so I had to very quickly work out other routes of working and other routes of for my career. Which has been really exciting, and it's really great to take new opportunities on and find new work. I think more than anything, I know what I don't want to do, and I think that can be just as powerful and useful. And I know that I personally, for me, I don't want to go back into the regular music industry. Like I don't want to work for a label or a publisher or something like that. What I'm really passionate about now, having worked so much on key change and worked for a lot of funders like the Music Venue Trust, worked with the Music Venue Trust, they're not a funder. I really love that area, and I really love empowering especially younger people who are interested in being in the music industry, or people who have barriers to entry. Helping remove those is something that I'm really interested in and passionate about now. So I'm working on ways to make it a fairer place for everyone in a number of different ways.
So obviously there's a whole thing at the moment, people saying with regards to the current pandemic and situations like that, how, I just want to go back to normal. And I was like, no, normal wasn't working. We're not going back to normal. We're going back to a better thing. And I think that's the point I think we've obviously made here today, and what a lot of us are making with projects we're working on and organisations we're a part of and campaigns and things like that, is that we're not going back to normal. We're going back to make change for the better, because normal was not working before. Yeah. It suited some people, but it wasn't fair for people. So I think it's quite good to be able to just see how we can make these changes. And obviously, finally, do you think we'll be able to make it through the change, and how much kind of thing? I was like, yeah, how is it going to change? Or how, if that makes sense. So it's like, how will we be developing through the change in an industry that we're all trying to make? So we go to Magdalena again.
So how do we want to move forward, kind of?
Yeah.
Well, I actually think that this pandemic brings a great opportunity to be kind of like a big reset. I think that I've spent a lot of time this year rediscovering a bit of my spiritual side, discovering a little bit more of like the holistic of my life. Can everyone hear me? Sorry, it froze for a second. Yeah, okay, cool. And I think that that's something that's important, and that's how I think that hopefully kind of coming back to, I guess for me, that's something about like common humanity and compassion and soft skills that are really important and really necessary in this world going forward, and working with grace and compassion. I'm pivoting. So I'm working and retraining and working as a transformational coach to support women and gender minorities in general in the music industry to thrive. So I'm in my diploma process right now.
Yeah.
And I think that's like necessary, that kind of concept of soft skills and thriving, because otherwise we were all burning out and we were all driving ourselves crazy.
Yeah. And to Nadia?
Yeah, I loved what you said, Charlotte, about, you know, it wasn't working before. So, you know, we have to go through this change. And, you know, resonating with what Jess said as well, like this year has been incredibly tough in so many ways, you know, financially for so many people in the industry. But I think we are going to be in such a better place, you know, going forward from it. So in some ways, we could say that 2020 is like the worst year ever. But actually, at the end of it, I'm starting to think that it might have been one of the best years that we've ever possibly had because of all the change that I'm seeing. You know, I was starting to kind of really feel a bit jaded about what I was seeing around me in the industry, the lack of diversity and, you know, the lack of progress for women. And now there's an opportunity for change. And that change is only going to bring about positive change for, you know, the next generation, like you guys that are coming through, that are going to be coming into the music industry to build careers. It's a much more open space, it's a much more inclusive space, and what I love is being able to be yourself and speak out, and I think that's so important. Whereas I feel like, you know, some of the things that I've done and achieved this year, I wouldn't have been able to do them last year. First of all, nobody would have cared, people wouldn't have been interested, or I might have just got cancelled like I mentioned before. So I think there's incredibly positive things to come out of this, and I'm really excited for the future now.
Yeah, love it. Unfortunately, we are going to have to close off there because we've just been so engrossed in the conversation for the past hour. We're almost at the end of our panel. But I just want to give a big, obviously, thank you to the four of you for joining our panel. I think it's been quite an interesting, quite an insightful discussion that we've had today. And obviously, thank you to everyone who's watched. I hope you've all found it quite interesting. And obviously, we've made some incredible insights into how we can make change in the industry and how that can really resonate with our audience. And not only do we need to invest in ourselves in terms of like career growth, personal development, but also the future of the music industry. And obviously, like we've said, ending the gender divide. I think we've all been inspired and motivated to make a change and to actually do our best, and like we've already said, to not let lockdown stop the movement to building a more equal music industry. Because like you just said, Nadia, it's quite a good chance for the reset and how we can really move forward afterwards. But yeah. Obviously, like I always said before, once again, like big thank you to all of you for joining us today, and I hope the rest of the people watching enjoy the rest of our music conferences today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.